the topic, marriage of the intelligent factories and intelligent people. Do we need both? Let's welcome our moderator for this session, Puan Hazami Habib, Chief Executive Officer of Academy Science Malaysia. Just a little bit of info about Academy of Sciences, or ASM. It's a think tank focusing on policies and strategy revolving around science, technology, and innovation, or STI. There, Puan Hazami leads more than 700 STI experts in Malaysia. Since joining ASM 23 years ago, she has been involved in initiatives such as the National Astronaut Program, the National Science Challenge, APEC meetings related to STI, and the formulation of the first, second, and third science and technology national policies, among others. She is currently also the chair of the Science, Technology, and Innovation Committee in the APEC Policy Partnership on Science, Technology, and Innovation, as well as council member for Malaysia's Industry 4.0 initiative, Industry Forward, led by MITI. I could go on because her biodata is just full of fantastic stuff about her, but I will proceed to introduce the rest of our speakers. Yang berbahagia Datuk Mark Rosario, Chief Executive Officer of GE Malaysia. Professor Dr. Nur Azizi Ismail, Vice Chancellor, University Malaysia Kelantan. Dr. Muhammad Rizwan Muhammad Yusof, Special Officer to Chief Executive Officer, Proton Edar, Sendiran Berhad. And last but certainly not least, Professor Iskandar Baharin. Ladies and gentlemen, he's from President of Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society, or MIRAS. Let's give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Puan Hazami, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for MTDC for inviting me to moderate this session 2. And we have a very distinguished panelist today to discuss about how to balance between technology and people. Because Industry 4.0 always a threat to people, because it said with robotics we have less work, we have less jobs. So what kind of jobs in the future? So coming from Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and having these 4 distinguished people, will try to bring you to discuss together on this topic that is very creatively crafted by MTDC. How to marriage between intelligent factories and intelligent people. Okay, so do we need this marriage, or technology can stand alone without people? So these are a few things that we will try to embark in this section. And as you know, we have Datuk Mark Rosario, CEO of GE Malaysia. I've known him as the former CEO of Agensi Inovasi Malaysia. So I think it's an advantage to have a panelist that have worked in the government sector before and now working in the MNCs and see the difference and the challenges. Next, we have Professor Dr. Nur Azizi Ismail, newly appointed Vice Chancellor of University Malaysia Kelantan. Before this, he is in the Ministry of Education. So he'll be focusing more on talent. What kind of talent we need in the 21st century under this Industry 4.0 environment? Do we generating the right kind of talent for the future and now? So we are looking forward for Professor Dr. Nur Azizi Ismail to give us an insight on this. Next, we have Dr. Ridwan Mat Yusof, Special Officer to the CEO of Proton Edar Sendiran Berhad. Now when we go, you see on our highways, we see Proton X70. Coming now, X50. Okay? Soon. So what is the strategy under GLCs and the Industry 4.0? How do they strive for challenges? And how they position themselves in the global automotive industry? And next we have Dr. Iskandar bin Baharin. He is the president of the Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society, MIRAS. He have a very strong experience in robotic. I can see he have worked in UK for 11 years under the British education system, so on and so forth. And he also have been in the education system. And now he is advocating about robotics and how robotics coming into the industry? Are we ready? At the Academy, we are a strategic partner of MITI when we come up with the industry forward policy. So we do that in, I think, less than 10 months. Then recently, we just finished with Ministry of Entrepreneurship Development, coming out with the National Entrepreneurship Policy. Both policy is addressing about the industries and addressing about the people. So as you can see, why this Industry 4.0 is a viral thing everywhere. It's not just in Malaysia, everywhere. If you see globally, every country in the world having their own strategic plan, how to handle or how to strategize in Industry 4.0. When we did Industry Forward Policy, we do a horizon scanning. We see why do other countries need to migrate to Industry 4.0. There are 4 big issues that they want to tackle. One is the drivers of change of Industry 4.0 is it is a social-driven trend. When we have a demographic shift, the unbiased world, new behavior, and shift to worker in skill-intensive, you need to migrate somewhere. If not, we are not relevant anymore. Next, we have a technology-driven trends. We have a lot of technology coming up, and it changed very fast. Now we're talking about 3D printer, people are start talking about 4D printer. We just embarked 4G, now people coming up 5G now going to 6G. I don't know how many G after this, okay? And then we have economic-driven trends where economy is no longer about mass production, but it's about mass customization. So how do we customize product according to what people's needs, consumer needs? And environment-driven trends. Everything is going towards the SDG. Is it sustainable? So these are the global challenges that has been faced globally by all countries in the world. So for Malaysia, how do we position Industry 4.0? For Malaysia, the case of change of Industry 4.0 is we have to enhance global competitiveness. Without global competitiveness, we cannot compete. Okay. Next is strengthen growth and productivity, especially in manufacturing industry. If we cannot strengthen our productivity, then we can't compete. You just see China, they are overtaking everything. Next is create high value-added jobs and reduce dependency on foreign labor. That is our national issue that we need to address, especially in plantation sectors and other sectors. And to increase small, medium enterprises' competitiveness. In Malaysia, we have 98.6% of our companies are SMEs. Out of that, 76% are micro enterprises. So how do we manage this kind of ecosystem? To start our session today, I'd like to address these questions to Datuk Mark Rosario. Coming from the MNCs, what is it, the key features or trends that has contributed to the rise of intelligent factories, especially in GE today? As we have talked before, we can see that GE is embarking into this right now.
Thanks, Hazami, and a very good afternoon. Thank you to MTDC for inviting me here today. Maybe to start, I'll describe a little bit about GE's businesses and what we've been doing in this area of intelligent factories. GE, as many of you might know, started with Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb. And that lighting business that has been very much a fabric of GE is now been sold. And the focus now is on aviation, healthcare, oil and gas, and power and renewable energy. So all these businesses are present in Malaysia. Aviation and power are probably the largest businesses here, oil and gas as well. And we have manufacturing sites all over the world, over 400 factories around the world. And in this part of the world, we have, in fact, globally, some of these factories are what we call brilliant factories. We use the term brilliant factories, and now, coincidentally, you're talking about intelligent factories. So these are, in fact, intelligent factories. And in this region, we have the closest one is probably in Vietnam, which is it's a brilliant factory that we have in Vietnam that's manufacturing wind turbines. There's a big factory in India. Its size is about 38 football fields, 67 acres, employing 1,500 workers. And this factory is state-of-the-art. It's what we call a multimodal factory, which is basically doing manufacturing for all our 6 businesses. So highly adaptable, and with this adaptability, we're able to maintain operations at a high capacity. Now, what is a brilliant factory? It's where we marry all the different technologies. You talk about Industry 4.0, everything from IoT, where we're doing predictive maintenance on and analytics on the equipment, robotics, automation, additive manufacturing. Now, additive is also a very large business for us, a growing business for GE. The additive business, I'm sure all of you are familiar with 3D printing. GE actually makes printers that print in different kinds of materials, in metals. So everything from titanium to ceramic matrix composites, very advanced materials. And probably about 10 years ago, we started using 3D printed parts in our jet engines. Now, this potentially is a game changer for many industries, the use of 3D printing in metals. What does 3D printing do? It actually removes your design limitation. When you think about designing a part, right? Let's say you're designing, take the example of our jet engines. We started, as I said, 10 years ago, incorporating a 3D printed fuel nozzle for our jet engine, which is for the LEAP engines, which is used for the Airbus 321neos. And this 3D printed part is made from titanium, reduces a lot of the friction. You can design the part as complicated as you want. You don't need to worry how to manufacture it. You just print it. So this has improved, tremendously improved efficiencies. We now print what we call a turboprop engine. We have a plant in Czech Republic that's 3D printing a turboprop engine. More than 60% of the engine is 3D printed. And what does this do? Originally, from 855 parts, where we had to assemble these parts together, you had to weld them, brace them, we now print it in 12 parts. Now, not only does this improve your manufacturing efficiency, you just think about the supply chain. From having to deal with 50 different suppliers that supplied the 855 parts, we now print it ourselves. So your supply chain provides tremendous efficiencies, and even how you need to stock spare parts, you can print those as well. So 3D printing has tremendous potential to really change the landscape of many industries. Globally, at the moment, the biggest users of 3D printing in metals are aviation and healthcare, which are the 2 sectors that we're very big in. And when you talk about the jobs, now, we don't see jobs really disappearing. Of course, you're going to see the lower skilled jobs disappearing, but there's going to be a need for higher skilled jobs. Here in Malaysia, GE employs about 2,000 staff now. It's up around 300 over the last 3 years. From 1,007, it's now over 2,000. And the kind of jobs that are being added are very high skilled. We now have a global IT center in our Kuala Lumpur office, which is supporting GE's IT requirements across the globe. And in Malaysia, we also have what we call RMND Center for the power industry, Remote Monitoring and Diagnostic Center. Now, this is a center, it's the only one in APAC that is actually doing remote monitoring for 90 power stations. So this is, you heard earlier the speakers talk about the concept of digital twin. This is actually operating here in our office in Malaysia, where we have digital twins of these power turbines in the power stations, the gas turbines. And it is sending, there are thousands of sensors that are sending data across the cloud to our office here. And this is using AI to actually determine what is happening in individual components in these turbines. So we can predict what is likely to happen before it happens. You can predict whether a part is getting too stressed. So instead of having scheduled maintenance, we do predictive maintenance, right? Where you don't change a part just because it's reached a certain length of time of use, but you change it based on how much stress it's actually already taken based on different factors, because not every turbine will be going through the same kind of stress in an operating environment.
Okay, that's very interesting. From 800 parts to 12 parts for the engines.
Yeah, 855 parts, yeah.
So that's how 3D printing or technologies change the way we design things, the way we produce things. So when all these things changing, one key words that Datuk Mak Rosaria told us just now is high-skilled workforce, high-skilled talent. So when you attend a dialogue between Ministry of Education and industry, they will have this debate on, supply and chain. What kind of high-skilled workers that really fit Industry 4.0? What kind of mindset? Because we need a talent that have this lifelong learning philosophy in their life. It will not stop in university. We need talent that willing to learn, unlearn, relearn, co-learn, and co-create. Because things move very fast. You cannot know everything. You need to collaborate. Looking into these challenges, this is to Professor Dr. Nur Azizi Ismail. How do you see from your perspective that we have to change the mindset of our talent from employment to employability? What kind of skills needed in the future and Industry 4.0 today? Please, Prof.
Okay, terima kasih Puan Hazami. Also to MTDC for the invitation to UMK. I think I'll take this opportunity to introduce a little bit about UMK. Our core or main thrust is entrepreneurship, but we have a good combination of arts, heritage, business, and science. And our main task is to transform our students, whether they are from science, arts, whatever programs, to be an entrepreneur. So when the Prime Minister launched the new vision for Malaysia to become entrepreneurial nation by 2030, so the burden is on our shoulder. Right now, about 5% of our graduates become an entrepreneur, and we need to increase that by 2030 to 30%. That's our KPI. That is one. And right now at UMK, we have 400 plus companies, registered companies owned by the students. That's one. And second, I think other than pushing students to become entrepreneur, we need to revisit some of our programs. That's one. The lowest GE is students from heritage program. So what we need to do is to embed the technological elements in that. That is one. And second is that we have been pushing the deans to revisit the teaching and learning process. I have challenged the dean to reduce the classroom face-to-face learning from 100% to 75%, and ultimately 50%. That's one. But then, where the students go if they are being free 50% of their time? So what we are doing now is that the plan, we have started to create an industry in campus. We can send the students out to work, but we can also create an industry inside campus. So we have 3 campuses. UMK is small. We have 9,000 students, but we have 3 campuses. And one of the campuses focuses on science programs. And that's where innovation comes from. You know, they came up with various products and things like that, and we are working closely with the MTDC to promote the product, etc. And that's one we are trying to do. We have agro-technology program. Instead of go to the class, learn about agriculture, we are trying to create an industry on a commercial scale in campus. And we recently signed an MOU with China Agriculture University, one of the best in China when it comes to entrepreneurship, agriculture. So then we can, not only the normal agriculture, but in terms of the smart farming, for example. So now what I'm trying to do is that, talking about the talents, what type of talents that we want to see among our students is that by giving them some freedom to explore, they need to become more adventurous, they need to question lots of things, and that can be done not in the classroom. One is through classroom. We are adopting the case studies, for example, so that they can, instead of listening to the lecturers, they need to ask questions. There's one, that is for the undergraduates, but we also have postgraduate students. So what do we do with the postgraduate students? Most of the postgraduate students are research students. So I want to touch a little bit about research here. I was in NUS way back in 2015. NUS focuses on fundamental research. They really go for long-term, upstream, and disruptive type of research. Through that will promote the spin-off companies. While polytechnics and colleges, they have polytechnics, those focus on applied research, trying to find solutions to the daily problems that promote the startup companies. So I think our country, then what we are trying to do at UMK is that we need to have a good combination of research that address both areas, not only fundamental, but also the applied research. I think in Finland, for example, there are universities that just focus on the applied research. Oulu University, I know that with Oulu universities, Oulu means Oulu. I mean, this is a very far away place, and they are doing, focus on applied research, and through that, over the years, they have around 500 startup companies surrounding that campuses. So that's what we are trying to do. And second, I think probably just a little bit more, the reality in Malaysia. I was a certified business intelligence trainer way back in mid-2000. I worked with a leading BI company and had opportunity to work with dozens of MNCs and GLCs. At that time, the issues were with the system integration. And a couple of days ago, I met a big data and AI experts, talking to them about what's happening now, because they have been working with few GLCs and MNCs. Same old story, And another example is that what I'm trying to convey here is that the industries also need to be ready. For example, when I was with University Utara Malaysia, way back in the end of 1990s, we want to push for Bachelor of Accounting with Information Systems. Strong resistance from the professional body. We don't need that. You are producing half baked, half cake. I still remember the word of the president at that time. I was a young lecturer at that time. But 15 years after that, they invited me to sit in the Digital Economy Task Force, realizing that the importance of digital economy to the accounting professions. So having said that, I think it needs a good combination of, yes, universities need to produce talents that meet the industry needs, but at the same time, industry also need to be more open, be more adventurous in adopting the new technology. I think I stopped.
Thank you. So, the questions that have been thrown by Prof. Azizi just now is industry must be ready. So some industry is saying that they are ready. Some industries say, why should I invest? It's a lot of money. And it's a very long-term kind of planning. So looking at that scenario and the kind of talent that needed by industry like Proton is talent that can solve problems, talent that can shorten the process, just like what GE did, from 800 over parts to only 12 parts, that can shorten the process, that can reduce the cost. So looking at that and looking at this scenario, how do you see, Dr. Mat Ridwan, the intelligent factory driving the automotive industry? How do Proton move the planning? Do you have a long-term plan on what kind of intelligent factory that Proton would like to build? Because you see the trends, there is one company in US called Local Motors. They produce cars just by using 3D printers. And they only have 116 workers. Their factory is only 22,000 square feet. But what is their strength? Their strength is they have 50,000 members, designers, engineers online, giving all the inputs on how to design the car. And this company can print one day 12 cars, customized, according to the customer's needs. So how do Proton, to ensure the sustainability of this kind of trends coming up with the technology, how do Proton position yourself under the automotive industry, Industry 4.0, and also searching for the right kind of talent into your sector?
Thank you so much for the interesting question. First of all, thank you so much for the MTDC for inviting me here to share some of the insight on the Industry 4.0 and where is Proton position in these initiatives. Well, speaking about smart factory or intelligent factory, Proton has started to build so-called smart car back in 2003 with Gen 2. Why I said that? Because in Gen 2, we had offered at that time new features named Captor, which is a vehicle tracking and recovering system. So that is where we started to initiate so-called smart factory, because there is basically an IoT device. That was back in 2003 with Gen 2. Perhaps some of you had experienced or have driven the Gen 2 with such features. So that is so-called a connectivity features. So with that features, we need our operators, to have so-called the understanding how to install this product into vehicle, because it is it's an electronic device. And then as you're aware at that time, so we already have numbers of robots in our factory, and our robotics system is getting more and more advanced, as well as automations. We retain our manpower to be more skillful, because I think you've heard that even I think started from our new model, new first SUV X70, you can book the car online. So when you book the car online, we have a cloud system that captured your order, the model, the variant, the colors, and this data has been sent to our factory. Yeah, and then the factory will get this information, and then this information will be shared throughout the production lines to prepare the ordered car models, features, and so on. And then looking at that, moving forward in terms of intelligent factory, our factory now has embedded a lot of sensors, cameras, to ensure the product quality is according to our specification. So more automation and robotics has been in place. For example, the installation of the glass door. I mean the windshield, the front and rear windshield is fully robotics. Previously, we use so-called manpower to do it. So we had introduced that so-called automation and robotics a few years ago to improve the quality. There's a high demand from our customer in terms of the product quality. On top of that, I think the key here is for Proton to make profit. Yeah. So time is money. So now when you order Proton cars through online, so we had basically promised a customer a certain duration, depending on the models and the variant that you've chosen. So from this smart factory, we gather all this information and we get all the parts ready. Yeah. On top of that, on our after sales also, I believe you have heard about our Proton application, yeah, My Proton apps. You can book, make appointment through the application, yeah, and then from there, okay, we have basically precisely make an appointment so that you don't have to wait in our service center. So there's a lot of, I would say, after-sales service improvement in terms of waiting list for service, yeah. So we developed a lot other application that also link with our factories. So these are a few initiatives that we have bring forward. And having said that, since we have a new partnership with Geely, yeah, we have a new car platform that have integrated connectivity. I think all of you are aware of high Proton features, yeah. And then all our models are now incorporated with these features. So we looking forward. These features is not as just for you to interactive with the car. So the car will also be interacted with our service center. By having said that, on the next step is that we can basically, our service center can basically predict or understand what is going to happen next. So if the car is going to have problems and whatnot, so it is more towards a preventive maintenance. Yeah, so that is something new that we are introducing, so to making our car smarter and smarter. Yeah. So thank you so much. I stop.
Thank you. So now we are not just talking about intelligent factories, intelligent people. We also intelligent product, smart car. So to have all this, Professor Iskandar from MIRAS, for you representing the civil society from the association, do you think we have done enough to upskill and reskill our talent in order to tackle this talent issue, to ensure that they are agile enough, they are productive enough, they are effective enough, and they have this skill of critical thinking, creativity in facing the challenges of Industry 4.0 from your perspective?
Uh, Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Again, thank you for the organizer MTC for inviting me, our association, and also myself to this panel platform. I can answer very quickly the question that you asked just now, are we doing enough? I can say as a civil society, we are not doing enough. Yeah. Why do I say that? Can I have, just to connect with all of you here in the audience, can I have a show of hand? How many of you are SMEs and business owners? Can you please put up your hand for me? Okay. How many of you are actually solutions provider? I mean, players of IR 4.0. How many are solutions technology provider? And the rest are all, I assume, work from the private sector? The others are from government, I take it, eh? So, okay, that kind of tuned me, the presentation of how to answer the gap, okay? Because it's very important from my experience, because I've been in the academia twice, public and government sector. I've also been in the private sector twice, multinational investment banking and all that. So this, I can say this is my next phase of my professional career, that I'm now into building my own company, a robotics and automation company. Usually when we talk about the technology, you know, it's either a market pull discussion, or a technology push discussion. I think it's very clear today, I need to talk on technology push discussion. Yeah? Because if I talk about market pull, I think, to be fair, there's not many business owners or SME here in the audience. But I need to focus more on technology push. When you talk about technology push, what is the current scenario that we have now in Malaysia? Now, I would like to share with you, based on Myra's experience. You see, our SME, as Chairperson mentioned just now, yeah, is very right that, you know, over 98% of us are SMEs, and I can say 76% are micro SMEs. So, how does you know, IR 4.0 or robotics or technology make a difference to these micro SMEs or even the SMEs? I think that should be the key hot topic that we should be very worried about. That's the gap. That's the gap. Okay. Now, I can assure you, based on our interaction of our members, we have about over 200 members, they are all crying to me. I mean, Iskandar, they say, you are close to the government. Please, can you raise our voices? How do we do this best, you see? So, people, I mean, our neighboring countries and even other countries, neighboring countries, they are now eating our lunch now. I don't know whether you guys know what I mean by people are now eating my lunch. People are now eating my dinner. And now with technology, they're going to eat my breakfast now. Okay? So by the time people start eating my breakfast, there's no more business to do. I mean, I won't be relevant anymore. So that is the key issue. Okay? Is survival. Now, when you talk about businesses, they all talk about survival. Will they be around in the next 3-4 years? I think that's the key issues of IR 4.0 actually. I'm not so sure whether all of you really feel this because it doesn't hit your pocket. Maybe you go to the ATM, you go, phew, money keeps coming out, isn't it? Never stop one. Yeah? But you try going to the ATM where you're not sure there's going to be money coming out from your bank account. That is IR 4.0 to me lah, to me, okay? Now, technology has got its own challenges, okay? When you talk about technology, now, you have to understand it has to fit within the reality of the current SMEs in Malaysia. SMEs in Malaysia, to be fair, they are very price sensitive. So, we shouldn't be talking about high tech, everything is high. When you talk about low tech, people start getting very shy. Yeah? The issue is should be technology or solutions provider should fit within the current OPEX, operating expenditure of the user, the customer. Okay? Now that to me is a technology challenge. I can build robots. My company will build robots. Building robots is not the issue now. But can you build a robot, an intelligent machine, or any algorithm or AI solution, okay, that fits within the OPEX of the customer, and not only fit within the OPEX of the customer, can you reduce their cost? Because we're talking about technology, IR 4.0 should reduce the current cost of production of a company. Now that, when you talk about that, then it will create a lot of white hair in all these technology players. I'm getting a lot of white hair already. So I think this is going to add a lot more white hair to me, okay? That's number one, okay? Number two is, can it increase my productivity? Okay? If less productivity means, with the current machine, if I'm making, let's say, 10,000 parts, with your technology, with your IR 4.0, I can make 30,000 parts, okay? More productive with the same resources, okay? Number three is that, can it increase my lead time? Because my competitor is selling their products, let's say, currently I'm doing at, let's say 10 weeks production time, 10 weeks. But with your IR 4.0, can it reduce my lead time to 5 weeks, half of it? Because I can beat my competitor, I can beat Vietnam, I can beat Thailand, I can beat Indonesia. Because, okay, they're doing at the same price and the same quality, but I can do it faster, okay? That's point number three. Point number four is, can it increase my quality? I put it either quality or R&D. Quality should be a given. Now, people always say that IR 4.0 should increase your quality. But these days, people, quality is a given thing. You don't even start doing business if you don't have quality. Those days, yeah, you can say I've got better quality. Nowadays, in robotics, quality is a given. So from a society perspective, so we're trying to facilitate, trying to utilize, facilitate this, because this technology, because it's digital, the cost of ownership can be cheap actually, if you know how to exploit technology, okay? Why I say it's cheap, because this handphone now, by the way, I'm not promoting iPhone. This is a robot. When you talk about robotics nowadays, no more all these, fancy arms or machine or big, it's software is also now a robot. Intelligence is also a robot. So this is what people fail to see. If we are still at the era, a robot is still the arm, I think we're kind of decades behind, okay? Robotics now is all about machine learning, intelligence, and all that. So now, IR 4.0 allows us to equalize very clearly, because it allows us to leverage your network. It allows you to quickly create a bigger market share. So I can say IR 4.0 technology, if you're all technology push or solution provider, or, because you don't feel the pinch of, you're losing your lunch, breakfast, or dinner, supposedly you are more on the proponent of pushing of technology. All these things that the end game is about survival for the SMEs. It's all about increasing their profit and increasing their market share through lowering the cost, increasing productivity, increasing quality, and increasing lead time. So I think that's my opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So if we use Prof. Iskandar's points, we can see that migrating Industry 4.0 is not just about technology. Don't focus on the technology first. We have to focus on the system first. What problem we want to solve? Which part? Then only we can achieve what Prof. Iskandar is saying. Increase productivity, reduce waste, things, so on and so forth. So looking at that kind of practice, and from the government perspective, do we have enough infrastructure that develop the right kind of ecosystem that help companies for them to plan well. I'm going back to Myra's, okay? Do we have the right ecosystem from your perspective, from the civil society, that it will facilitate, especially SMEs, towards this kind of thing? Because they need to compete, just like you say, they need to survive. This morning I was in MITI, they are talking about iron and steel. Iron and steel sector, now everybody is worried because it's declining. Okay, big company coming from outside Malaysia is dominating the market. So the only solution coming from the Iron and Steel Association is they want the government to extend the levy for their sector. But that's not the solution. So how do we facilitate this kind of phenomena? Because it is like a vicious cycle. You go to any sector, we face the same problem. So how do we have enough infra? Because every time the industry will go back to the government. The government said, why don't you divert your business from just constructions, you're going to E&E for oil and steel and iron. Why don't you divert? Oh, we can't talk to Proton, we can't talk to other companies because we don't have the capacity. You know, they are not talking to each other. So the business cannot divert, and they're only doing the traditional kind of business that they know. So how, do you think we have the right kind of infra supporting this SMEs or LLCs or GLCs for them to leap to another level in this industry?
Okay, that's a very good question, because I get this question very regularly in panels like this. So in fact, last week, 2 weeks ago, there was a conference that we co-organized, the Intelligent Smart Manufacturing Conference in MITI. So it was 80% was attended by SMEs. You know, a lot from Singapore came, from Bangladesh, so Australia. So okay, a lot of the SME then there is, what's the infrastructure available in the country? I start by saying this, okay, Malaysia, we are so used to this culture of relying on subsidy, the subsidy mindset. I tell to my SME friends, it can be like a drug, you know, it's like a drug where you keep getting this so-called support and other. So when you start pulling this drug, then you start doing funny things, you know, so difficult. The giver and also the taker is both the same. Yes. The giver is also involved, the taker is also involved. So it's a bit like, an issue, yeah? So when you look at our competitiveness, like in our neighboring countries, like for example Indonesia, their SMEs, they don't rely on government, they have to survive, because don't talk about government subsidy, is unthinkable then. So when IR 4.0 came to them, it's a natural thing. Yes. They grab and poop, they start. The same thing in Vietnam. If you go to Vietnam, it's this type of events, you talk about this type of event, you talk IR 4.0, this room will be full. You don't have to, they will come because they want to know, because it's their survival. Okay, and the government of Vietnam does not give, there's not much support. There is support, but not much.
Not much.
So I think we have to break this drug chain. I hope you all understand what I'm talking. I'm not drug as drug, but this, I call it sedation or
addiction.
Addiction issue, yeah. So because when you do that, so now we are moving, Myras, we're going on a new program which we call SME helping SME. Because when SME helps SME, we talk about the same language, because we are both survival, we need to help each other. So we create consultants. So it's like, we're going through that process now. SME helps SME.
Oh, good strategy. Better, yeah. Dr. Mark, you have any view on this?
Yeah, I fully agree with Professor Iskandar's point about not looking to the government all the time with this subsidy mentality, and to your point as well about the ecosystem. Yes, it's very important to have this ecosystem in place. For manufacturing, there's so many avenues to look at how you can improve your efficiency. At GE, we actually do a lot of, we do have some consulting as well which we do for large manufacturers. We have something called asset performance management, where we go into a company and look at what is it that you need to reduce your costs. So for example, an aluminum smelter in Greece, we did a project for them. The biggest cost for an aluminum smelter is your fuel cost. Right? So how do you improve your fuel cost? So again, this involves incorporating sensors and taking all this data that you then are able to look at the most efficient way to produce and reduce your fuel cost. So even a few percentage points reduction in your fuel cost makes you a lot more competitive. And this can apply to so many of our industries here.
Yeah. And that is also true. When I have this dialogue this morning, another thing that they ask from the government is, can you reduce the electric tariff? You see? So that is the kind of mindset. So I think the biggest challenge, whether Industry 4.0 or Society 5.0 or any other thing, is mindset change. We need to have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And we need to find better ways on handling issues, problems, challenges outside the box. That's why I think this, we have this initiative of Sandbox, MTDC going towards Industry 4.0 to help startups and also SME. But the number of takers, I sit in the Council of Industry Forward. After 8 months launch of the Industry Forward, only 473 companies came forward to be assessed. Out of 473, only 10 eligible. That means they are ready for Industry 4.0 under the assessment. So this gives some indicator of where we are, and we have still a lot of things to do and a lot of challenges to face. But we need to have more dialogues, more shared vision for industry, government, academia, and civil society to work together and understand each other. So these are a few things that I think in the rise of robots, in the rise of Industry 4.0, we need to focus on the people. The people that drive the thing. The technology does not drive the thing. If we don't have the right mindset, I don't think so we can go far, and we will still left behind. When we have a pre-discussion just now, one of the threats that we see, not just that, competition that we see among ASEAN is Vietnam. Vietnam is chasing us very fast. So where do you see Vietnam? What do they have done something like that we can see their progress very fast, and what do we don't have? So any view from the panel on this?
I can make
Yes,
a short comment. As I mentioned at the start, GE actually has a factory in Hai Phong in Vietnam, and it's one of our intelligent factories, the brilliant factories. And why was Vietnam chosen? It was, well, firstly because of the market. This manufacturing plant was to manufacture wind turbines, and there is a demand for wind turbines in Vietnam as well as a region. In ASEAN, Malaysia is probably the only country, unfortunately, that doesn't have sufficient wind to make use of wind turbines. But it was the availability of not just the availability of talent, but also the infrastructure that was there. You look at things like broadband coverage. Vietnam has actually overtaken Malaysia, right? And the mentality of the workforce as well.
Yes.
So we see them moving at a much faster pace. Malaysia still has the opportunity to stay ahead, and we need our industry to really do a lot more and move a lot faster.
Yes.
Yeah. I just like to share my experience with Vietnam because Myras, we have collaboration with the Robot Society in Vietnam, so we do interact. See, if you look at Vietnam, very interesting. They cannot speak English. You see, they cannot speak English, and a lot of because the Vietnam government, they identified that they want to excel in manufacturing, but not low cost, low labor manufacturing. They want to enter straight into high cost, high value manufacturing. So a lot of Korean companies, they are moving there, Japanese, so they're attracting a lot of manufacturers there. Even some of our Malaysian companies also moving to Vietnam because the promise is that the government will, of course, standard, they will give incentives and all that, but it's the people, the skilled workers. They'll get a good supply of skilled workers. And when you come to think of it, when like 4 years ago, all these friends that I know in Vietnam, their English, they cannot speak, they cannot communicate, but they're very brilliant. They cannot speak English, but then the willpower to learn, to survive is there. I think that is something that we have to learn to compete. So I think, having said that, I still feel that Malaysia is not that bad. If you want to be the tiger of ASEAN again, I would say Malaysia wants to be the robotics tiger of ASEAN again, we have to do things differently. And number one is that the speed of execution is very important. that's the only thing that we have in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Speed of execution. If we can speed up our execution, I think it's not that bad, but I think we can scale up. Because imagine we are multicultural, English, we have everything is there. But we're losing out because we're not efficient in our execution, that's all. Thank you.
Do you agree, Professor Z? We are not efficient in our execution.
Yeah, let me share. I'm a frequent visitor to China since 2011. I didn't speak Mandarin, but somehow they like me. I was in Beijing last June, being on a panel, or they call it as a think tank forum on digital economy, etc. And I visited many companies, Tencent, JD.com, Alibaba, and some incubators. But one place that really touched me is the Inouye. Inouye is a 230-meter street in Zhongguochuan district in Beijing. Only 230-meter street. They have a double-story building on each side. But within that building, they have 45 incubators with almost 3,000 startups and 2 with unicorn status. And those people in Inouye are very, very young. So when the government launched Future Rise way back, I think 2 years back, I was very excited. I was at the Ministry of Higher Education at that time. So I contacted the CEO, can you come and present to us? And almost a year later, I went to visit them, hoping to see something like Inouye. So, but then I think they are facing some challenges. Things are not happening like they planned. So having said that, I think I'm in Kelantan. Kelantan is lagging in terms of almost everything. Infrastructure, internet penetration is very, very poor and things like that. But we are still pushing for something like, still want to see something like Inouye, because I've been contacted by quite a number of young technopreneurs who are really pushing for that. So and then every now and then I've been knocking on philanthropist's door, corporate doors to come and help us, giving us some funds so that I can gather all these brilliant people. So what we need in Malaysia, really, I think the government need to pump in the money, one, and we need together, like the robotics, when I was at the ministry, we know that there are a few robot experts in that university, 2 of them, 3 here, 5 there, so we create one informal platform for them together. So I think what we need is that to get people, we have the brains, but they are everywhere. So we need to have a place like, we don't need to invest on high-tech building, It's a very simple building, just get the best brain in, I think we can do wonders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
So,
if I might add,
yes,
from the automotive
before we open to
perspective,
the participants. Yeah.
speaking about Vietnam, they have their car maker. Vietnam has Vinstar, and their local car maker, they are very focused on executing their models, especially their full electric vehicle. So Proton, with the initiative with government, previous government, we supposed to launch our very first full electric vehicle back in 2008 during Tun Abdullah as our
2008.
2008. We supposed to launch
talking
our
already
very
EV.
first electric car, very first electric car. That would be the first in ASEAN. Yeah. So I must agree with Prof. when he mentioned about execution. That we have a lot of challenges coming along, especially the infrastructure and so on. And looking at Vietnam, they're going to launch their first electric car next year. And they are ready in terms of their infrastructure and so on. So these are a big lesson learned for us. Some might say electric vehicle is not feasible, but we must look beyond the technology. Because the technology offers a digital innovation. There's a big spin-off from full electric vehicle technology. Because the car is only a hardware. What is important is the software, the application, the AI behind the car that offers a lot of convenience to the customer. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is some insights coming from the four panelists. I also chip in some of my ideas just to provoke the discussion. I would like to open it to participants and guests. If you have any question to the panelists, please introduce yourself and then give your question. Designate to which panelist or it open to any panelist. I open for participants to come up with questions. I was told there is a Slido for you to give your questions. Any questions coming from the floor? Do you agree with the panelist view that we have, sometimes when I see it, when we do some scanning or review, Malaysians have a first-class idea, but we need to move to the first-class execution. First-class idea. I went to meet a CTO of Estonia government. The first government in the world have this e-government. So I asked her, she's 29 years old, very young, law graduate. Where do you get this idea, e-government? Then, you know what she answered? From Malaysia. I said, oh my God. Where do you get this idea? From your MyCard. 1996, we learned from your MyCard project. From there, we take it. Now we are the first government in the world, fully 100% e-government. So I feel like knocking my head. I say, oh, we always have first-class idea. But when it comes to execution, somewhere went wrong, don't know what. So that's why I'm keep on asking the panelists, what is wrong? Where is the gap? Okay, from the academy, sometimes is it education? From the primary school or kindergarten or secondary school, we need to teach them how to have this critical thinking, creativity, and then have this motivated how to follow through things. So these are things that maybe we need to tackle from the beginning. Then we have the right kind of set people. Then university kadang-kadang when they don't want to start open classroom or non-classroom, it's too late already because they're going niche to what area they want to do. So how do we tackle this issue when it comes to people? Okay, any questions? Slido is on the screen.
Puan Hazami, if I may interject.
Yes.
MC here.
Oh, okay, MC. You have a
Actually, I
question?
want to pick up on something that you mentioned earlier. This was the example of Local Motors that was 3D printing cars in the US.
Yes.
And I realized, I did a bit of research about it, and they basically use a co-creation model.
Yes.
And I understand that GE also practices co-creation in some of your businesses. I'm not sure whether you do that in Malaysia. I want to understand, is co-creation a viable model for us to explore so that we could have the best of intelligent factories and also intelligent people? Yeah.
Datuk Mak, co-creation?
Yes, certainly. In GE, we have this practice, we call it fast works. Now, before I
Last
joined,
word.
before I joined GE, I was running the innovation agency, and one of the initiatives we had was to start a design thinking school. It's called Genovasi. It's still running now. It's been privatized, and when I was pleasantly surprised when I came into GE and saw FastWorks, because it is literally design thinking in practice, right? We use design thinking principles, and this is applying across the board for co-creation, where we encourage our partners to come up with what we call rapid prototyping and actually go and test those prototypes in your market. Not just in manufacturing, but even internally, when we're looking for ideas, looking for ways to do things more efficiently, we use this practice of what we call FastWorks. And it is literally design thinking in practice. We have a design thinking school here. Just last week, I'm still a little bit involved in supporting them. I went to attend some kind of a pitching session from the design thinking graduates. And they were a lot of impressive ideas. Some of them that went to do the design thinking course, they went back to their organizations or to the government agencies.
Yes.
And came up with a lot of ways to improve things. There was one from a large property development company. Young lady, she's in her 20s, and she's now head of innovation because of the principles of what she learned in design thinking. She's applying in there, where they actually reach out to their customers and get feedback as to what they're looking for in new developments, and they're actually incorporating this into their plans.
Yeah. Co-creation also, it gives you a full cycle of demand-driven and market-driven. Because when you have a large number of community contributing and giving ideas, you also can see the trends. And co-creation also can be used in universities. Because now we are moving towards buffet learning, not something structured. Last week, when you saw KP of Jabatan Pengajian Tinggi said, 38 courses demolished, tak ada dah, kan? Then how do you create a relevant kind of courses? You can co-create with industry, with civil society to make it more relevant. Okay, now we can see more questions coming online. So let me choose, is it a lot? Only 4? 3 questions for Prof. Azizi. How is the requirement for entrepreneurs to be successful different with IR 4.0? What traits are especially needed? 3 orang tanya tu. Kita jawab.
Okay, interesting question. I'm not an entrepreneur myself, but I believe that, to be a successful entrepreneur, I have many business people who are my friends. They are very adventurous. That's one. You need to read a lot, you need to travel further, you need to see things deeper. That's one. And another thing is that I would like to invite entrepreneurs, SMEs to come to the universities. I give a very good example, happened at UMK. We have one company who are selling charcoal, only charcoal. Beli kayu, bakar, jual arang. Until he met one lecturer from bioengineering faculty. And now he has more than 20 products and making millions of sales every month. That's one. And we have kind of like age council, we call it at UMK, whereby entrepreneurs meeting each other together with the lecturers. And one way is that Malaysian market is very small. We have only about 32 million people, but there's a huge market just next door in Indonesia. So we have friends, one of our advisors to the university, inviting, he has a group now going to Indonesia. So you need to travel further, you need to stay longer sometimes and see things deeper. I think that's one of the things. And at UMK, we are not just producing entrepreneurs, but we want to produce graduates with entrepreneurial mindset, who are brave enough to challenge their lecturers, their professors, and we are also changing the mindset of the professors, not just the students. So I think that is very, very important. And talking about the smart classroom, people are talking about smart classroom, things like that. But to us, understanding our customers, students is very, very important. Understanding our staff so that we can promote the right person, things like that. Those are, I think, one of the characters of an entrepreneur. And it's not just about IR 4.0. People can talk, the buzzword. You know, everyone is talking about the marriage of physical, digital, biological spheres. You know, people love talking about it. But like Prof. Iskandar said, it's not just about all the high things, you know. We need to really look at, study the reality on the ground as well.
Thank you, Prof. Azizi. Okay, next question. 4 people likes this question. Dalam menghadapi gelombang IR 4.0, apakah teknologi terkini yang telah dibuat oleh Proton dalam teknologi enjinnya?
Okay, very interesting question. Engine. Okay, what we have done recently, when we introduced a high proton, that offers connectivity. It's not only connectivity between the driver to the car, within the car components itself, especially in engine. The engines has sensors, yeah, has sensors to be the input, you know, to the driver. When the driver press the accelerator, so the engine will act as, you know, as what is being demanded by the drivers. So from there, we have connected these sensors to our high proton features. So if anything wrong with the car, the error code will be registered for our service center to take the next action. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier about preventive maintenance. Yeah, so this is one of the new features that we introduced that related to IR 4.0. It's connectivity. Sensors are being in our engines is connected to our application.
Yeah, that is IoT. Car to car, car to people, people to people, building to building, everything is connected.
So our car is IoT basically.
Yeah, okay. So, next questions. Oh, this is interesting question. How can government change people, public mindset? Because politicians keep on disrupt the government and fight each other. Any takers? I think we focus on how can we change people and public mindset. I think mindset is the challenge.
Can I say
Yes,
something?
Professor.
I'm not going to answer about the politicians. But
Yang nombor 2 tu.
UMK is only 13 years old. So I'm the 5th VC. So you can imagine how unstable the university is, you know. So I asked my corporate friends to come, from these HR people to come and assist me to understand the perceptions of UMK staff. So the finding, one of the very important findings is that they don't really care, because he will stay at most 3 years, then the new people come with a new vision, mission, things like that. So I really need to you know, I was the first VC this year to have apa ni dipanggil taklimat, engagement with the staff, because I have to face them, to tell them that it is not about me as the VC, it is about the institution. People may come and go, but it is about understanding what we want our institution, what we want our country, our nation to be. You know, that's more important. Forget about the politicians. They can talk, I think. You know, politicians change, government change, but what we as an individual need to do, I think that matters most. I think that is the kind of message that I sent to the people at UMK. Sekarang ni, we just finished our second round of survey. We interviewed people. I think the perception is getting better. You know, they want to be part of the team. See, we are UMK family. That's one of
inclusive
side,
management. Yeah, very good. Okay, because if you see, this is how can government change people and public mindset. I learned from South Korea. I asked them, in 1960s, you and Korea and Malaysia is just about the same, right? Then they, I don't know what went right with them, suddenly they showed up. They said, you know, Asian countries, you need to be governed by law. First thing we do in 1960s, we have the Science and Technology Act. So they kata government can come and go, but by the law, things protected. And they have reviewed their law 18 times until today to make it relevant. So that is a kind of thing that, you know, politicians, it's their job lah to find, right? But we need something to govern, to make the ecosystem stabilize. So academy has been pushing this idea to have this SNT Act. Supaya the first thing that they don't cut is the R&D fund. You know, they keep on cutting and nothing left. So these are few things that we think maybe we have to see Asian way. It has to be governed by law. Okay, let's move to another questions. This is interesting. Maybe Prof. Iskandar or Datuk Mak can help me to answer this. I'm about to create my startup focusing on AI, simulations, and high-performance computing. What is your advice for me to do it correctly, quote unquote? Prof. Iskandar.
Thank you, madam. My answer is very simple and very straightforward, I think. Based on my personal experience, you're in the right place at the right time. Come and see MTDC, the complete equation. Yeah?
There you go.
I'm a testimony of this complete equation, so you can start with that.
Okay, very good. Datuk Mak, any?
Well, I talked about design thinking earlier.
Yes.
And, you know, for a startup, it is a very useful tool as well. When you're starting something new, you need to think about who is it you're serving, right? What is it you're trying to do for them? And you must be willing to keep changing, to keep pivoting. Don't have this set mentality that this is what I think I want to do. This is what I think everyone needs. But if it doesn't work, you fail, you learn from the failure and just keep moving on and learning from the failure, learn to fail fast and be willing to adapt and change.
Yeah, we need a society. Sometimes we have to celebrate failure because through failure we learn, right? So these are things, trial and error. It's normal. I don't know. I think Prof. Iskandar has go up and down with his company. It's normal. Okay, let's go to another question. We still have time. Malaysia lacks implementers. Do you believe in letting the younger managers, leaders to lead and take a step back? Any takers? First question, do you agree Malaysia lack implementers? Do you agree? Pak Zizi?
Boleh lah, saya jawab sikit.
Slow, boleh lah.
I think we need to give more responsibility to the young ones who are bold enough to bulldoze. You know, to change, I think, I have read, I was in Hong Kong many years ago. At that time, the Hong Kong people, they line up, tunggu bus. But they're also Chinese, you know. But you go to the mainland at that time, people don't line up. So I read the history of Hong Kong. At that time, there was an old black and white photo of a big Englishman with a kayu besar lah, button, waiting people to line up and smash them. So sometimes you need to bulldoze. You need to force people to change. The force will create a norm, and the norm will become a culture. Sometimes I think we need to have a kind of soft and hard approach. So we need to have a more young talent, give them a chance to lead with a proper guidance, you know, supaya dia tak ego sangat pun, that's another thing. But I think we are not lacking in terms of implementers. I think we just need people who are brave enough, not to, just to do things. Yeah.
Yes,
If I can add a bit, my contribution in this is that, we need to look at Malaysians working in multinational companies outside Malaysia, because this is really our assets, our experience. So if we can get these people who are working outside with a lot of experience, get them to contribute back to our country, the younger ones. These are all young generation games. I think we can really make a difference. I'm a believer that you have to give space to the young generations because, having been young at one time, yeah. So because maybe the question, because all of us are old people, that was the question, yeah. So we have to take a step back, give them the space. Maybe one of the panel next time will be a young people. That'll be a good challenge. Because the moment you get the young people asking questions, participating in this type of dialogue, then we're on the right course because they are brave to share their ideas. So I think the less that we settle down in terms of politics, we are more, the dust has settled. Let's focus on growing the country. I think that's my take.
Yeah, agree. Sometimes the young people have to use this policy of claim the space. You see, if there is no takers, the young take the space. I learned that working in academy. Academy science is one of the youngest in the world. Other academies is 500 years. They have long history. You see, Albert Einstein is their fellow. So how I'm going to compete, right? But just claim the space. Because I think when we don't claim the space, other people will take it. Right? Okay, we move. A lot of question on Proton. Proton, when will Proton produce EV car powered by battery or hydrogen?
Okay, my answer is short. Proton will produce the electric vehicle after the third national car produced the electric vehicle. So we believe we started from the plug-in hybrid, then electric vehicle. As I mentioned earlier, Proton has an attempt to mass produce electric vehicle back in 2008. Then due to some big challenges politically and also I think monetary, and then we had to defer. However, looking at hydrogen or fuel cell, I think it's still a long way to go due to the infrastructure. Yeah. So that.
Talking about hydrogen, Academy just had a General Assembly talking about hydrogen economy. Okay, we have 5 minutes. Okay, and hydrogen economy is very potential, and the Sarawak government have developed one pilot plant on hydrogen economy. Maybe Proton should look into that. I see public transport, maybe not personal car, not there yet.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, for public transport, I think that's a
It's
good
very
way to go.
economical and it's affordable for
Passenger
people.
car, due to the infrastructure,
Yes.
there are a lot of stations
Yes.
of
Dato'
this
Wang?
fuel cell.
Anything you want to add? No. Yeah, I'm looking at the next question. Alamak. Ni luahan hati. Local big company. Alamak, sombong tak nak jumpa kita. Walaupun SME kami ada innovation, IR 4.0. Okay. So they say there is a double standard between this foreign mata biru vendor. So what do you think? This is a perception or any takers from the GLC?
There's only one
MNCs?
local big company here, right?
Yeah, looking at you. Is it issue of confidence or they are not given the opportunity? Do you think there is is there an issue?
Okay.
It's a real issue.
Well, first of all, GE is a multinational, not a local company. But I don't think it's a question of being sombong, is the word used there. In GE, for example, we are actually actively looking for local suppliers. So, for example, a year ago, we actually had a joint initiative with MIDA to have a sourcing day. We had our global procurement people coming here The thing is, you need to, when you want to become a supplier to big companies, you need to meet certain standards, right? You need, if you don't meet those standards, you're not going to get there. So you need to find out how to meet those standards. And sometimes the companies actually, you know, if you show you have that willpower and the tenacity to try and achieve that, they will help you. Now, to answer the other question about average salary.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the details about average salaries of a floor worker in our factory in Vietnam, but I can tell you here in Malaysia, we have an jet engine overhaul facility in Subang. It's a very big business. It's a global business. We service over 40 airlines, doing over 3 billion ringgit a year. And we had 2 years ago, we entered into a tie-up with the state government, Selangor state government, to have a training program for SPM leavers, right? 2-year program to train them to become aircraft engine mechanics. And this is using a lot of technology as well. And when they graduate, they start on a salary of 4,000 plus incentives. They earn about 7,000 a month. So, you know, this is a very good track. You talked about TVET. This is a very good track to develop an alternative career path to the usual university. And, you know, vocational training has certainly got a lot of potential to, you know, for highly skilled.
There. We don't have much time. I have to sum up. I only have 2 minutes. I know we have more questions, but maybe you can approach the panelists during networking session and, you know, explore more and discuss more. I hope this session gives you an insights of what's happening in MNCs, what's happening in GLCs, how civil society, especially in robotics sector, is looking into Industry 4.0, and how university, the supplier of talent, getting the talent ready to face the challenge. What we need is the one word that I can coin of all this session is execution. We know until 2035, we have not less than 45 policies that has been launched by government. So we don't have shortage of policies. What we need is a very good implementations. We need to work and do it. And to do that, we need people that have a growth mindset, because we cannot predict the future. It changes, especially in technology, it changes very fast. If we fail to plan now, we plan to fail. And I don't want, again, when I meet another colleagues from overseas, like Estonian CTO, and again they point out, I get there's this bright idea from Malaysia, but they are the one executing it. So with that, I hope all the best to all the companies. Please communicate with MTDC, with Academy, with UMK, with all these organizations. And I think when we can build trust among us, the 4 quadruple helix, we can work effectively. And with a shared vision, we can push our mission towards where we want to be to become a developed nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again to our moderator, Puan Hazami, and of course our esteemed panelists, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Mat Rosario, Professor Dr. Noor Azizi Ismail, Dr. Muhammad Rizwan Muhammad Yusof, and Professor Iskandar Bahirin. A big round of applause for our panel, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as we prepare to set up our next panel session, I just want to pick up a few things that I got from that session earlier, and that is that, of course, the big fear, as I mentioned earlier, was that jobs would be disappearing. Yes and no. That lower skills jobs, yes, they may disappear, but the need for higher skilled jobs is increasing. And also the other thing that was that I picked out was that post-grad studies overseas tend to focus more on long-term upstream and disruptive research, and this is something that our universities can and should focus on more. The biggest challenge that we're dealing with locally is a mindset change, the reduction of dependency on subsidy mentality and on the government, and also on innovation and diversification to survive. So in a nutshell, for our workers to work in tandem with intelligent factories and Industry 4.0, we need to scale up our workers' skill sets urgently, not necessarily through higher learning, but rather additive learning. TVET is the key. Design thinking, co-creation, collaborative learning is the way forward. So ladies and gentlemen, that was a great session. Thank you so much, Puan Hazami, and all our panelists.